Before we learned to write, we remembered through bones. Beneath the surface of time, your body holds the stories you never meant to keep. Tonight, we trace the memory that lingers even after the mind forgets. Welcome back to the Sleepy Scientist Stories. Tonight, we begin at the deepest place in you. Not your mind, not your dreams, but your skeleton. Because your bones are not dead things, they are scripture written in calcium. And the story they tell is you. So close your eyes, let the earth hold you gently. Let your breathing slow to the rhythm of ages, and drift with the Sleepy Scientist Stories into a tale whispered by the body, beneath skin, beneath silence. We think of bones as architecture. They hold us upright. They make motion possible. They shape the face we show to the world. But bones are not passive. They are alive. Inside you, right now, your bones are buzzing with cellular life. Osteoblasts, building osteoclasts, tearing down. A constant renovation of your inner cathedral. More than support structures, your bones are living documents, scrawled upon by experience, trauma, gravity, hunger, and healing. Like ancient scrolls, folded not in paper, but in porous tunnels, ridges, and scars. Like silent monks, they say nothing, but remember everything. When archaeologists dig up remains from long-lost civilizations, they don't start with the weapons, or the jewelry, or the writings. They start with the bones, because bones tell the truth. They show if a person was malnourished or carried heavy burdens. They reveal repetitive motions, knees shaped by kneeling, shoulders widened by pulling. A fractured rib once healed tells of a blow survived. A twisted spine tells of labor that bent a life out of shape. Even teeth, tiny ivory archives, reveal diet, age, illness, and loss. Each groove, each scar, each worn-down edge is a chapter, a life not told in words, but in calcium and time. How strange that something so solid, so enduring, could be so alive. Bones are not dry fossils in a museum case. Inside them pulses marrow, a red river of life. Bone marrow produces millions of blood cells every second. It remembers infections and learns from them. It adapts. It fights. It grows. Even the outer shell, cortical bone, breathes. It responds to pressure, adjusts to stress, reshapes itself around use. Astronauts lose bone density in space because without gravity, the bones have nothing to resist. When we run, when we lift, when we heal, we are writing in our bones. Each moment another word in a lifelong scripture. Consider this. You may forget a childhood fall, but your femur doesn't. You may not recall the hunger you felt once, but your ribs remember. The body keeps score, not just in scars, but in structure. A twisted ankle leaves a trace. A broken collarbone forms a callus. A vitamin deficiency halts bone growth, leaving lines across a child's long bones, like tree rings during drought. Bones remember illness. They remember malnutrition. They remember pregnancy. They remember labor, war, play, grief. And when everything else is gone, bones remain silent, still, and profoundly honest. We don't often speak of bones as intelligent. We think of intelligence as mind, neurons firing, thoughts flickering. But bones have their own wisdom. Your skeleton communicates with your brain, your immune system, your gut. It releases hormones that regulate blood sugar and fertility. It helps regulate stress and inflammation. It responds to emotional trauma through chemical pathways. When you're stressed, cortisol rises, and that affects osteoblasts, the builders of bone. Long-term stress weakens bones. Long-term joy movement, love, peace, strengthens them. Isn't that beautiful? That joy can be carved into your body just as surely as pain. Long after skin has faded, long after words are forgotten, bones endure. Sometimes they even become fossils, bone turned to stone, mineral by mineral, over millennia. What are fossils if not memory? Memory of breath and muscle, of motion and instinct, of death and what lies beyond. In fossilized footprints, we read fear and speed. In bones encased in amber, we read stillness, the forever moment of a world that vanished. Our planet itself keeps a record of life through bones. Each one a note in the Earth's long song. Your body adapts to how you use it. The dominant arm's bones grow denser. The tennis player's elbow thickens. The dancer's ankle strengthens. The laborer's spine curves. We are shaped by repetition. Even the smallest gestures, how we sit, how we sleep, how we carry stress in our shoulders, are etched in our bones over time. So when someone finds your skeleton someday, they may read not only what you were, but how you lived, how you moved through the world, what burden you carried, and how long you bore it. Bones have always held sacred power. In ancient cultures, bones were not discarded. They were honored, decorated, buried with reverence. Skulls were kept as symbols of ancestors. Femurs were used in flutes. Ribs were painted and placed in tombs. To touch bone was to touch memory, to connect with something both eternal and intimate. Even today, we bury bones, cremate them, wear them in jewelry, keep ashes close. We feel that pull, that bones are not just remnants. They are vessels of soul. You are writing your history in your body right now. Every step you take, every weight you carry, every breath you fight for, writes a little deeper in the temple of you. Your skeleton is a time machine. It contains the past, your ancestry. It lives the present, responding to your now, and it will outlast you, whispering your story into the future. So tonight, rest easy. Let your bones become heavy with trust. Let your breath return to the earth. Know that nothing is truly forgotten, not in your heart, not in your mind, and not in your bones. They hold your story, even the parts you've never told. They are your oldest witness, your quietest companion, and the only part of you brave enough to outlive silence. You've likely heard this before. Your genes are passed down. Hair color, eye shape, skin tone, height. But beneath those obvious traits, there are memories hidden in the code, and not in the DNA itself, but in what surrounds it. Welcome to Epigenetics, the science of how experience can alter gene expression, and how those changes can be inherited. A scar on the soul, written not in flesh, but in cellular switches. Imagine your DNA is a vast symphony, 100,000 instruments waiting to play. But epigenetics is the conductor, deciding which notes are played, which are silenced, and when. Your DNA might contain all the instructions, but epigenetic marks, chemical tags like methyl groups, can turn genes on or off based on what your body has lived through. And sometimes those switches stay flipped even after you're gone, passed on to your children, and their children, and theirs, like a whisper that refuses to be forgotten. Let's begin with a story from Sweden. In a small town called Gaverkalix, researchers found something strange. If a man experienced famine during puberty, his grandchildren, yes, grandchildren, were more likely to live longer. But if he had plenty to eat during that time, his grandsons were more likely to die younger. Why? Because the feast or famine switched genes on or off, and those changes echoed down the generations. A bite of bread in 1890 still shaped a child's health in 1990. That's the power of epigenetic inheritance. What your ancestors felt, you may still be feeling. Now let us look at trauma. In the bones of Holocaust survivors' descendants, we see changes in stress hormone regulation. The trauma didn't end with liberation. It kept living, quietly, in the children who never saw the camps, in African American families, descended from enslaved ancestors. Scientists found epigenetic markers tied to resilience, but also to increased vulnerability to stress-related disease. The bones became both armor and ache. We carry the weight of what our ancestors could not express, but had to survive. Bones are not static, they respond. A child raised in fear develops higher cortisol levels. Cortisol breaks down bone. A generation raised during war, shorter stature, more brittle skeletons. In famine, the body shuts down bone growth to preserve energy. In abundance, it rebuilds. Each experience, each generation, writes a little more into the body. The skeleton is no longer a blank page. It's a palimpsest, a manuscript written, erased, and rewritten across lifetimes. Even before birth, the body begins recording. When a pregnant woman feels fear, stress hormones cross the placenta. They can methylate genes in the developing fetus, altering how those genes function for life. This is called fetal programming. And the bones of the child will grow differently, respond to calcium differently, form marrow with a different rhythm. You began to remember before you ever opened your eyes. There's something sacred in maternal memory. In your bones, you carry mitochondrial DNA, passed down only through mothers. It is a thread that goes back mother to mother, unbroken for hundreds of thousands of years. Each mother's calcium, each mother's marrow, each mother's fear and tenderness passed into the next. You are the living architecture of women who knelt at fires, who crossed rivers, who gave birth in the dark. Your bones are their cathedral. If you looked at the pelvic bones of a woman from 10,000 years ago, you could tell if she gave birth, how many children, how far apart, even how much calcium she lost. Bone shape is legacy. Rickets, from vitamin D deficiency, leaves bowed legs and collapsed ribs. Osteoporosis, the ghost of starvation or stress. Arthritis in the hands of a weaver. Bone spurs in the knees of a farmer. Curved spines in the servants of royalty. Your bones are not neutral. They are political. They are historical. They are memory solidified. Ever feel sorrow you couldn't name? Grief with no story. Fear without cause. Some scientists now believe that inherited trauma may prime our nervous systems to react more intensely. That the child of a refugee may flinch at loud noises, despite growing up in peace. That the grandchild of a mother who fled war may have higher baseline cortisol, ready for a danger that never comes. It's not superstition, it's biology. The bones prepare for storms, even if the sky is clear. But here's the hope. If trauma can be inherited, so can strength. Epigenetics doesn't just carry wounds, it carries wisdom. Your body may know how to endure because someone before you refused to give up. Your immune system may respond faster because your great-grandmother once survived a plague. You may be afraid of water because someone drowned. You may be brave because someone lived. You are not alone in your skeleton. There are voices, their ancestors, echoes, ghosts, and they are not haunting you. They are holding you. They are your subconscious counsel, whispering through your marrow. guiding your instinct, strengthening your silence. You are the living answer to 1,000 unasked questions. Your bones are a choir, singing back through time. So how do we live, knowing our body carries memory, not just of self, but of others? We breathe deeply. We speak gently to our bones. We forgive ourselves for reactions we don't understand. We care for our skeleton as if it were a library, because it is. And when we feel emotions that don't belong to this moment, we ask, who do you belong to? What story do you carry for me? Science is just beginning to understand how far this goes. How long do epigenetic marks last? 3 generations, 7, 20. What if entire cultures carry bone-deep memory of famine, slavery, migration, loss? What if healing the body is also healing history? This is not just personal, it's collective. We are remembering for each other. We are healing backwards, and your bones, they are listening. Let this be your lullaby. You are not broken. You are remembered. You are not haunted. You are held. Every cell of you was shaped by love and survival, by war and wisdom, by fire and water, by silence and song. Tonight, sleep in the knowledge that your skeleton is not just support, it is story, an ancestral echo wrapped in the miracle of your body. We are taught that memory lives in the brain, a network of neurons, a filing cabinet of time. But the truth is more complicated, more intimate, because memory doesn't only live in your head, it lives in your nervous system, in your fascia, your muscle, your gut, your spine. It lives in your habits, in how you flinch, in how you breathe, in how you brace for nothing but something. This is called somatic memory, memory that is felt, not spoken, memory that hides from language, but not from sensation. Not all wounds bleed, some echo. A child raised in chaos may learn to stay silent, to freeze when overwhelmed, to tense at sudden sounds. Even if they forget the chaos, the body remembers, it prepares, it protects, it is expected. And so, years later, the adult might tremble for no reason, might feel panic in safe places, might wake in the night with a racing heart and no memory to explain it. This is not madness. This is the body doing what it was trained to do, to survive. Let's talk about your nervous system. When you face danger, your body reacts before your mind does. The amygdala fires, adrenaline floods, muscles tense, cortisol rises, breathing shortens. This is the fight, flight, freeze, the vagus nerve response, which runs from your brain to your gut, too often, becomes hyperreactive, or during your muscles that the mind can't your process. Posture, those shifts, patterns your breath stored in the body, even when the danger is long gone. So how does the body speak? Through symptoms, through habits, through sensation, back pain with no injury, chronic fatigue, irritable bowel, unexplained tears, the way your chest tightens when someone raises their voice. These are not just psychological, they are physiological. Studies show that trauma alters the immune system, digestion, even the way bones grow. In people with PTSD, brain scans show overactive fear centers and underactive language centers. In other words, they feel but they cannot say. The body carries the unspeakable beneath your skin. Wrapping every organ, muscle, and bone is something called fascia, a spiderweb of connective tissue, a sensing fabric, a storage system for movement and stillness. Fascia holds posture. Fascia holds tension. Fascia holds memory. If you've ever cried during a massage, or felt emotion release after stretching, you've felt fascia speak. It does. not forget what the body has lived through. Even your bones are not immune. Chronic stress raises cortisol. Cortisol affects osteoblasts, the cells that build bone. Children raised in neglect have lower bone mineral density as adults. Bone formation slows. Healing takes longer. Infections linger. Even in the hardest parts of you, there is vulnerability. The skeleton records not just injury, but invisibility. Repetition becomes identity. If you grow up walking on eggshells, you learn to make yourself small. You learn to hold your breath. You learn to hunch your shoulders, as if to shrink the target. Over time, those patterns harden into posture, into gait, into muscle tension, into pain. Even without the threat, the body walks like it's still hiding. Trauma turns reflex into ritual. It turns moments into movements, and movements into memory. Talk therapy is powerful, but sometimes words aren't enough, because trauma isn't always stored in language. It's stored in sensation, in silence, in breath, in the moments before speech. That's why some people can talk about a trauma and feel nothing, while others, when asked, freeze, stutter, dissociate. The mind might be silent, but the body is screaming. To heal that, we must speak the body's language. Somatic therapies begin here, with breath, with movement, with safe touch, with body scans and noticing, with shaking, grounding, sighing, stretching. These are not childish. They are ancient. Animals do this after trauma. They shake, they stretch, they rest. Their bodies complete the fear cycle. But humans often stay frozen, stuck between fight and flight, tense for years. To heal, we must move like animals again. We must let the body finish the story that the mind was too frightened to write. Some researchers believe that dreams are one way the body releases stuck memory. In REM sleep, our muscles are paralyzed, but our brains replay experience, a safe simulation, a way to complete a survival loop. In dreams, the mind rehearses what the body could not do at the time. And when we dream deeply, we wake softer, not because we forgot, but because we remembered differently. Sometimes the echo lasts decades. A war veteran whose body tenses at fireworks. A survivor who cannot stand closed doors. A person who can't breathe when someone walks away. These aren't overreactions. They're time travel, the body, trying to protect you from a danger that looks familiar, even if it isn't single. Plots, these echoes aren't weakness, they are intelligence. Outdated, perhaps, but well-meaning. Like an old friend who knocks every night just to check you're safe. There is wisdom here. The body's overreaction is proof it once saved you. Tears during yoga, proof you've opened space. Shaking hands when speaking, proof your voice matters. Tight shoulders at a certain smell, proof of a boundary long crossed. The body is not your enemy. It is your translator, your mirror, your first language. It will not abandon you, even when you abandon yourself. So how do we soothe the body when it remembers what we do not? We breathe, slow and full, like waves. We move, not to perform, but to unfreeze. We speak kindly to our muscles, touch our own skin with reverence. We lie on the ground and let gravity hold what we can't. We say, I see you, to the knee that hurts, to the throat that tightens, to the back that stiffens. We make the body feel safe, so it can stop holding the memory for us. Forgive your body. Forgive it for reacting, for aching, for clenching, for waking at 3 a.m. It was never betrayal. It was always protection. Thank your heartbeat. Thank your breath. Thank your legs for standing up again and again. Thank your skeleton for being a silent witness to what your words couldn't say. Forgiveness is not forgetting, it is remembering safely. Over time, the body softens with every sigh, every tear, every stretch, every dance. Every moment of deep stillness, the somatic shadow fades. Not completely, but just enough to walk without flinching, to breathe without armor, to love without bracing for pain. The memory doesn't disappear, but it loses its grip, and you return to yourself. Somewhere in a dark cave, 100,000 years ago, a group of early humans gathered in silence. They dug a small hole, placed the body of a child inside, laid flowers on the chest, sprinkled ochre, red as blood, red as earth, on the face. This was not practical. It was sacred. It was the first known burial. And with it came a truth older than language, that bones are not waste. They are witness, that death is not just an ending, but a continuation of memory. To bury is to believe that a body still matters even when breath has left it, that touch, placement, and presence still mean something. Every culture buries its dead differently, yet everywhere there is ritual, from the pyramids of Egypt to the Tibetan sky burials, from Viking ships set aflame to ashes scattered in ocean spray. We do not leave our dead to chance. We ceremonialize them, because the body becomes more once it is no longer alive. It becomes story. It becomes symbol. It becomes a sacred bridge between memory and meaning. Bones last, skin dissolves, blood vanishes, organs return to the earth, but bones remain, and through them science speaks. Radiocarbon dating tells us how long it's been. Osteology shows us the shape of a life, the age, the health, the labor. Even microscopic wear reveals what the person ate, what illness they had, whether they smiled. Teeth hold traces of water from childhood wells. Skulls show signs of injury or kindness, a healed fracture, a surgical attempt, a cradled head. Bones do not forget. They are the final, fragile library of who we were. How we bury reveals what we believe. In ancient Greece, coins were placed on the eyes, payment for Chiron, to ferry the soul. In medieval Europe, the body faced east, toward resurrection and light. In the Zoroastrian tradition, bodies were left in towers of silence to return to nature, cleansed by vultures and sun. Every culture, every age, creates a ritual around remains. Why? Because bones unsettle us. And to turn that discomfort into meaning, we wrap them in story. We sanctify the skeleton. We turn grief into architecture. Bones do not just mark death, they shape the living. In Neolithic societies, skulls were kept in homes, not as trophies, but as guardians. In Mexico's de los Muertos, bones are joyful, sugar skulls, painted altars, ancestral laughter. In many African and Aboriginal cultures, the dead are not gone. They are present in the land, in the trees, in the bones beneath our feet. Graves become landmarks. Bodies become part of memory's geography. We return to them not because they are dead, but because they remind us how to live. Did you know the act of ritual around death triggers neurological regulation? Grief is chaotic, but ritual is structured. It creates order where there is none. the smell of incense, the placement of a flower, the rhythm of a chant. These are not just cultural, they are neurological balm. Studies show that performing burial rites lowers cortisol, releases oxytocin, and helps integrate emotional shock. Burial is not just for the dead. It is for the mind of the living. The body is gone, but the need for ceremony remains. Archaeologists do not only excavate ruins, they excavate emotion. A burial site, with bones arranged in fetal position, tells of belief in rebirth. A skeleton, with tools beside it, tells of a life honored. A child buried with toys tells of love that did not die with the child. Mass graves tell of horror, of haste, of tragedy, without time for mourning. Bones become symbols. They tell us when a society cared and when it collapsed. They show us not just who died, but who remembered in times of injustice. Burial becomes rebellion. In the Holocaust, prisoners risked death to bury the dead in secret, to honor those the regime tried to erase. In colonized nations, burial grounds were hidden, protected, treated as sacred spaces of identity. The bones of ancestors became proof of belonging. Even today, land is fought over because bones lie beneath it. Burial is not passive, it is political. To bury is to say, this life mattered. And to defend the grave is to defend the story. Not all bones are buried. Some are burned. Cremation is a return to flame. The purification of matter through heat. Bones become ash. Ash becomes wind, and memory floats. Others leave their dead in high places, sky burials, so that vultures may carry the soul upward. These rituals seem alien, but they are born from deep belief in the cycle of return. Whether to earth, fire, air, or sea, the body is not discarded, it is released, and the ritual is not destruction, but transformation. Visit any cathedral in Europe, and you may find bones on display, skulls in gold, femurs behind glass, relics, the sacred remains of saints and martyrs. The body becomes divine through memory. These are not just bones, they are portals to faith, to story, to shared belief. What we enshrine, we remember. What we protect, we become. The skeleton is no longer only human, it is luminous. It is language carved in calcium. Have you ever walked through a cemetery? It is not a place of death, it is a library of silence. Each name, a chapter. Each date, a sentence. Each stone, a bookmark. Beneath the grass lies not sorrow, but story. And yet, the body beneath the ground is no longer suffering. It is still, it is dissolving, it is becoming earth again. To visit the grave is to visit memory, not pain, and in that space between stone and sky, we remember how small we are and how eternal we are. Today, we bury less and upload more. Our digital lives continue after death. Social media pages, data trails, digital tombstones. We are building cemeteries, not of soil, but of servers. What will archaeologists of the future find? Not bones, but bandwidth. Understand our grief through emojis and timestamps. Even as our rituals evolve, the bones remain central, still sacred, still buried, still remembered, because no matter how virtual we become, we are still creatures of earth and Ashdod. One day your bones will rest, not in fear, not in failure, but in return. You will become part of the ground you walked on. The tree roots will reach toward you. The rain will pass through you. The soil will carry your calcium into new life. Burial is not disappearance. It is transformation. You do not vanish. You change shape. You become another verse in the poem of the planet. As your body lies still, let it become sacred, not in death, but in rest. Let your bones remember the ancient rituals, the flowers, the fire, the quiet goodbyes. Let your breath slow. Let your limbs grow heavy. Let your skin soften back into silence. You are not gone. You are becoming. Sleep is the small burial from which we rise again each morning, renewed. So sleep deeply. Let the ritual begin. When a creature dies, nature begins its quiet work. Scavengers, bacteria, time, most vanish, returning to the cycle of air, soil, and rain. But sometimes a body falls into still water, or is buried under volcanic ash, or swept by a sudden landslide, and there, cut off from decay, the bones remain. Minerals seep in, calcium fades. Stone replaces what was once soft and alive. This is not just death, it's transformation, and the fossil is born. The word fossil comes from the Latin fossilis, dug up. But what we're digging up isn't just rock. It's memory, a tooth that once tore through flesh, a footprint made beside a river, a feather pressed into mud from a wing that once touched sky. Fossils are not the past. They are the past remembering itself. They are time made tangible, stone turned storyteller. They are what happens when life leaves behind a ghost that you can hold in your hand. Extinction feels like an ending, but fossils tell a more complex story. They say, we were here, we mattered, we struggled, adapted, survived, until we didn't. Over 99% of all species that have ever lived are now extinct, but they are not gone, not completely. Their bones have become whispers in the language of geology. Their teeth, clues in the puzzles of evolution. Their shape, echoes in our own anatomy. To carry fossils in your DNA, in your spine, in the curve of your jaw. Extinction is not erasure. It is translation. Let's pause for a moment to understand the science. There are many kinds of fossils. Permineralization, where minerals fill in pores of bone or wood. Casts and molds, where a body dissolves, but its shape stays behind. Trace fossils, like footprints or burrows, not the body, but the behavior. Each type tells us something different. A footprint shows how a creature walked, a tooth, how it fed, a burrow, how it hid. Fossils don't just preserve form, they preserve function, they preserve story. Most fossils are never found. They lie deep beneath us, under miles of sediment, untouched for tens of millions of years. Like dreams we forget but still shape our day. Like trauma held in the unconscious mind. The earth has a subconscious, and it's made of fossils. Sometimes the planet remembers by pushing them up through earthquakes, erosion, or tectonic shifts, and then suddenly, a child on a hillside finds a seashell 100 miles from the ocean, and the memory returns. Did you know that the Himalayas, those towering snow-covered peaks, once lay at the bottom of the sea? Today, fossilized ammonites, spiral-shelled sea creatures, are found high in Nepal, embedded in rock above the clouds. What does that tell us? That even mountains carry memory, that the earth moves, but it does not forget, that time folds in strange ways, and what once swam may now sleep on top of the world. Look at your hand. Flex your thumb, that opposable thumb. A gift from primates long gone. Fossilized hands show the same design. Your tailbone, a leftover from ancestors with tails, still visible in fossil skeletons from millions of years ago. Your inner ear bones, once part of ancient fish jaws, traced through fossils from ocean to land. You are not separate from fossils. You are their continuation. You are living geology. Of all fossils, none stir the imagination like dinosaurs. Massive, mysterious, vanished. Yet even they are not entirely gone. Birds are their descendants. Every chirp is a whisper of the Mesozoic. And when a child sleeps beside a toy T-Rex, they're not just playing. They're participating in the ancient dream of Earth. Even now, new fossils rewrite what we thought we knew. Dinosaurs with feathers, packs that hunted together, parents that nested and cared for young. They weren't monsters, they were animals. With memory, with warmth, now stone, but once soft. Here's a darker truth. Much of the energy we use comes from ancient carbon. Coal, oil, natural gas, fossil fuels. They are the compressed remains of ancient forests, ferns, and plankton. Lives turned into fuel over millions of years. When we burn them, we are literally igniting the past. Every flicker of a street lamp, every hum of an engine, powered by extinction. We are living in a civilization fueled by long-dead memory, and every time we burn, we alter the atmosphere, leaving a fossil of our own for the future to uncover. Not all fossil stories are about discovery. Some are about loss. Museums house fossils taken from lands without permission, without gratitude. Many indigenous cultures believe bones belong to the earth, not glass cases. To them, fossils are not artifacts, they are ancestors. Modern science is learning to listen more, to excavate, not just with tools, but with respect, because what we dig up is not just stone, it is relationship between past and present, between human and earth, between wonder and responsibility. In 2011, a small boy in South Africa tripped over a rock. It turned out to be the skull of a new species, Homo naledi, a distant relative of humans, unknown until that moment. The fossil had waited over 200,000 years to be seen. That's what fossils do. They wait, quietly, patiently, in darkness, until the right hands uncover them. And in that moment, the past breathes again. Fossils don't just shape science. They shape dreams. They gave birth to dragons in mythology, to giants in folklore, to the idea of ancient worlds beneath our feet. They remind us that the world is bigger than memory, older than myth, more alive than we realize. To hold a fossil is to hold a silence so ancient it humbles the soul, and yet it speaks, through curve, through weight, through presence. Now ask yourself, what fossil will you leave? Not in stone, perhaps, but in behavior, in art, in kindness, the way you comfort a child, the way you protect a forest, the way you carry memory with reverence. Will someone, someday, dig through your story and find something worth remembering? Will you become a gentle imprint on the future? Because even if your bones dissolve, your choices may fossilize. Fossils do not seek to be remembered. They simply remain. That is their gift. And their lesson, to endure without demanding, to wait without bitterness, to trust that what is true will surface eventually. Sleep like the fossil tonight, still, buried in quiet, cradled by time. You are not forgotten. You are simply forming your own slow memory beneath the surface. And when it is time, you will rise. Death seems like an end, stillness, silence, loss. But just beneath that silence, something is happening. The body that once held laughter, movement, thought, returns to the soil, and there it becomes more than it ever was. It becomes the seed of a garden. Bones, though hard and still, carry calcium, phosphorus, iron, carbon, elements once borrowed from stars, now returned to earth. In death, the body gives everything back. It is not discarded, it is transformed. Asterisk. Let's step gently into the biology of death. When the body dies, a series of invisible processes begin. First, autolysis. The body begins to digest itself. Enzymes break down cell walls. Then, putrefaction. Bacteria, once our allies in life, now begin their final gift. They decompose, release nutrients, soften muscle, break structure. Insects arrive. Flies, beetles, mites. They feed, lay eggs, recycle. Finally, scavengers, birds, foxes, microbes, until all that remains are bones. But even they aren't final. They are rich in calcium, and calcium is a building block of life. What exactly does the body give? Nitrogen from muscles and proteins, phosphorus from DNA and bones, potassium from cells, calcium from the skeleton, magnesium, sulfur, iron. These elements nourish soil. They enrich ecosystems. A buried body can feed a tree for decades. Bones, when crushed and scattered, become natural fertilizer. Called bone meal, it supports root growth, flowering, and fruit. From the decay of flesh, new life emerges. From the death of one, a forest begins. There are places where entire groves have grown on. Graves. In battlefields, in forgotten cemeteries, in ancient burial mounds, the roots reach down, wrap around bones. Drink the calcium and phosphorus. Grow strong, tall, green. Some scientists have studied trees in old graveyards. They found elevated levels of human carbon in the wood. It is not metaphor, it is biology. The tree's bark may carry the breath of someone who lived centuries ago. You could be leaning against a branch fed by a forgotten ancestor in deep oceans. When a whale dies, its body sinks, a phenomenon called a whale fall. And down there, strange life begins. One of the most remarkable, Oxidax, the bone-eating worm. It drills into whale bones and digests the fat inside. It grows without eyes, without a mouth. Rooted like a plant on skeletons in the sea, it turns death into a reef, a new habitat. Bones are not boundaries. They are beginnings in dry landscapes. Scavengers leave behind scattered bones. Over time, insects, birds, and even small mammals make homes in hollow skulls and empty rib cages. The skull becomes a shelter, the spine a tunnel, the pelvis a nest. A dead animal may support hundreds of living beings through structure alone. Even without flesh, the body continues its function to protect, to give space, to hold life. Fungi are the quiet recyclers. When something dies, fungi arrive. They send out hyphae, thin threads that weave into muscle, marrow, skin. They digest the dead and return nutrients to the soil. In recent years, a new form of burial has emerged. The mushroom death suit, a bodysuit seeded with fungal spores that helps decompose the body naturally. Eco-friendly, silent, sacred, a way for the body to become part of the mycelial network, the invisible web that links all forests. In death, you become part of the conversation of trees. Think of cemeteries not as static places, but as ecosystems. They hold more than bones. They hold insects, fungi, soil, bacteria, roots, birds. Some conservationists have proposed natural burial grounds where no embalming is done, no concrete vaults, no metal coffins, just body, earth, and time. These spaces restore soil, create habitat, feed forests. Death returns to its ancient rhythm, not hidden, not denied, but integrated. Your bones are mostly calcium phosphate. This same mineral is used in coral reefs, in shellfish, in the hard outer skeletons of many sea creatures. When you return to the sea, through cremation ash, bone fragments, or natural decomposition, your calcium may one day form the shell of a mollusk, or strengthen a reef. Your death may help protect coastlines, create marine homes, anchor new life in the sea. Modern burial often separates us from the natural cycle. Concrete vaults, sealed coffins, preservation fluids. We freeze the body in time rather than releasing it, but in doing so, we stop the story. Natural return, letting the body become earth again, offers psychological peace. Studies show that people who choose natural burial report deeper connection to life, less fear of death, more gratitude for the body. To decompose is not to disappear, it is to rejoin. Gardeners often say their soil feels alive. They're right. A teaspoon of healthy soil holds more organisms than people on the planet. Some of those organisms feed on dead matter. Some depend on the nutrients released from bones. Bone meal is used in gardens to feed roses, tomatoes, and root vegetables. The memory of death is written into petals and fruit. What you eat may be the echo of bones from long ago. Humans are not the only ones who perform burials. Elephants cover their dead with branches. They stand silently around fallen family. They return to the bones, touch them gently. Crows hold funerals. They gather. They call out warnings. They remember. Even certain ants carry dead nestmates away to burial chambers to prevent disease. Burial is not just cultural, it is instinct and ancient recognition that the dead deserve return. You've spent your life eating, moving, breathing, learning. Now imagine at the end, your body feeds a tree, or flowers, or a mushroom that nourishes deer. You become part of something you will never see, but that will carry you forward. The robin that sings may be singing on a branch you once nourished. The child that climbs may be held by bark, fed by your bones. What greater legacy than to feed the future? We've been taught to fear death as erasure, but nature shows us it is transformation. The end of one form is the start of another. The decay of a body becomes the bloom of a field. The collapse of structure becomes the rising of roots. There is no waste. There is only return. Death is not a wall. It is a door. And behind that door is a garden. So tonight, lie down as if you are soil, not lost, not forgotten, but full of quiet power. Let your spine become the stem of a tree. Let your ribs widen like petals. Let your breath join the wind that carries pollen. You are not separate from this earth. You are its future. Even in stillness, you feed something. Even in sleep, you bloom. Sleep gently, as if every cell knows it will one day become a garden. Your skeleton is not silent, it is writing, every day, in secret ink, fractures, healed teeth, worn vertebrae compressed from how you sit. The ridges in your finger bones form from the way you grip the world. The wear in your knee comes from how often you kneel. Bones don't forget posture, they don't forget injury, they don't forget touch. Even your skull, that cradle of thought, thickens slightly over time depending on stress, habit, expression. Your body is a journal, and the bones are its pages. Inside the hollow of your bones is something soft, marrow, and within that marrow your blood is born. Red cells, white cells, platelets, your body's flowing memory system. This is where oxygen meets identity, where immunity is trained, where the body learns what is friend and what is threat. And did you know marrow holds stem cells? Those ancient shapeshifters that remember how to become anything. Bone is not just structure, it's origin. It is where life continues in the language of cells. When you were born, you had more than 270 bones, soft, flexible, many unfused. You were not yet solid, not yet defined. As you grew, some bones joined together. They fused. By adulthood, you had 206. Your skeleton had made choices. It had committed. Childhood is a time of freedom, fluidity. Adulthood is a time of form, and yet the traces of who you were are still there, in your jaw, in the curve of your ribs, in the way your spine responds to emotion. Bones are like photographs of every phase of you. Touch is not only felt by the skin. When you hold a hand, your bones respond. The pressure stimulates tiny sensors deep within, called mechanoreceptors. These send signals that affect growth, repair, even mood. Babies who are not held develop bones differently. Bones grow stronger through physical love. Even the force of gravity shapes the skeleton. Astronauts who spend time in space lose bone density, not from disease, from lack of touch with the ground. To be touched is to become real. Your bones carry the memory of every fall, every break, every accident. A healed fracture tells a story of pain and recovery. Some bones develop microfractures. From repetitive motion, athletes, dancers, laborers, others show signs of disease, osteoporosis, arthritis, cancer. Each scar is a sentence in the autobiography written beneath your skin. And yet, the skeleton does not hold a grudge. It heals. It rewrites itself. A reminder that you are both fragile and resilient. Forensic science can often tell if a skeleton belonged to a man or woman, adult or child, ancestry from certain parts of the world. But identity is not absolute in bones. Gender and race are patterns, not rigid facts. Bones suggest. They hint, they invite context, and sometimes the skeleton tells a different story than the one assigned in life. Some trans people, even in death, carry the memory of a body that did not match their soul, and yet their bones are just as sacred, just as real. Bones are not the full story, but they are a voice in the choir of self. Skulls are often seen as symbols of death, but look closer. Every face muscle you use pulls against bone. Your smile leaves its trace in the zygomatic arch. Your jaw tension shapes the mandible dot. Your frown tightens around the supraorbital ridge. Even in a bare skull, expression lingers. Anthropologists have learned to reconstruct faces by studying the slight wear and stress on bone. So when you laugh, or cry, or bite your lip in thought, your bones are listening. Throughout history, bones have been objects of wonder. Medieval cathedrals displayed relics, saints' finger bones in golden cases. Tibetan ritual trumpets were made from thigh bones, not to desecrate, but to remind us sound comes from the skeleton. In Mexican folk art, calaveras, whimsical skeletons, dance and play, laugh and love. Even in memento mori paintings, skulls were not just warnings, they were invitations to remember that life is short and precious. Bones are not grim, they are honest. They are what remains when all illusion falls away. The spine is your body's river, 33 vertebrae, each one bearing weight, moving slightly, carrying nerves from brain to body. It remembers posture, remembers burden. People who are depressed often curl inward. The spine curves protectively. Those who feel joy stand tall, the vertebrae open. The spine is not rigid. It dances, and it sends constant messages between bone and brain. Even how you sleep shapes its flow. Tonight, let your spine relax. Let it forget the weight of the day. When a limb is lost, sometimes the person still feels it. This is called phantom limb syndrome. Why? Because the brain has not forgotten the limb. The neural map still holds it. The skeleton still echoes it, even when the physical bone is gone. The idea of it remains. Scientists have learned that the body and mind are not separate. The shape of your skeleton is stored in your consciousness. You feel yourself as a whole, even when part is missing. Memory exists not just in the brain, but in structure. Sound moves through bone. Bone conduction is how we hear ourselves speak. It's also how Beethoven, nearly deaf, composed music. He would bite a stick and press it to the piano. Let the vibrations travel through his jawbone to his skull. Your bones are instruments. The hum of the world resonates in them. When you listen to a lullaby or the ocean in a shell, your bones remember it as vibration, even in silence. They sing, bones are passed down. Your skeleton is a blend of your ancestors. The curve of your spine may match your grandmother's. The density of your hips may echo a great-great-grandfather who walked with strength. We inherit more than DNA. We inherit form, and in that form are stories. You are not the first to carry these bones, and you will not be the last. Your bones will one day become part of another story, in memory, in earth, in echo. When archaeologists uncover ancient bones, they touch a hand reaching through time, a Neanderthal's femur, a medieval child's skull, a Bronze Age healer's wrist, and from these we rebuild faces, we learn diseases, we rediscover ceremonies. Bones are time travelers, and your body right now, is the past of someone else. One day, your skeleton might be studied, held with care, understood. Even in stillness, you will speak. Tonight, let your bones settle, let your joints soften, let your jaw unclench, let your spine lengthen. You have carried much today. Memories, movement, thoughts, worries, desires. But now, you are allowed to rest. Your skeleton does not need to hold the world. Let the bed take your weight. Let gravity hold you gently, like a fossil in warm soil, like a whisper between stone and air. You are safe. You are home. You are remembered. Imagine time not as a clock, but as a sculptor's hand. Every rainstorm a soft stroke, every earthquake a crack through marble, every century a patient sanding of what we leave behind. Ruins are not failures. They are portraits of survival. They show what lasts and what doesn't. The broken wall still standing against the wind. The amphitheater, its stage now, grass and silence. Time doesn't destroy, it redefines, and the world becomes a gallery of ghosts. The first humans didn't paint on canvas. They painted in caves, torch in one hand, ochre in the other, and a world inside them burst onto the stone, hands stenciled on rock, bison drawn in movement, spirals and shapes we still don't understand. Why? Maybe to remember, maybe to honor, maybe just to say, I was here. These were not just images, they were messages across time, and now, tens of thousands of years later, we still see them. Time has touched them, but not erased them. In ancient Egypt, artists carved entire worlds into limestone. Hieroglyphs told of gods and kings, the afterlife, the flooding of the Nile. But these weren't just records, they were spells to hold memory in place. In Greece, statues stood not as decoration, but as presence, each muscle chiseled with an understanding of life, motion, divinity. And in India, temples were carved from single mountain faces, stone turned into prayer. Art was not separate from nature. It was nature, spoken through human hands. Cathedrals, mosques, pagodas, stupas, all across the world. Architecture became a language to speak with the divine. The arch pointed toward heaven. The dome cradled the sky. The minaret sang to the stars. And when these structures fall, they don't disappear. They become ruins, still speaking, but softer now. Even when the roof is gone, the echo remains. And when sunlight moves through a shattered window, it still feels like reverence. Why do ruins move us so deeply? Because they are the perfect metaphor for being human, beautiful, incomplete, touched by time. Ruins remind us that nothing is forever. And yet some things persist. A broken column says, I stood. A cracked statue says, I was loved. In psychology, this feeling is called ruin lust, a longing for what was and what could have been. We look at ruins and see ourselves, fragile, enduring, aching with memory. What determines what survives? Stone outlives wood. Dryness outlasts humidity. Ice remembers more than rain. In Pompeii, a volcanic eruption froze a city in time. People, tables, loaves of bread, everything suspended in ash. Science has learned to read these moments, to carbon date, to scan, to map. We peel back time layer by layer like an archaeologist's prayer. But still, some things escape us. Ink fades, clay crumbles, bones dissolve. The science of memory is always racing time, different. Materials hold different stories. Marble tells of power. It's heavy, enduring. Grand clay tells of daily life. It's intimate. Fragile, hand-shaped wood tells of warmth, but rarely lasts. Glass tells of luxury. It breaks easily, but sometimes preserves beauty for millennia. Even pigment tells a tale. Red ochre, lapis lazuli, indigo ground from plants. Each color was chosen. Each brushstroke, a decision that crossed centuries to touch your eye. You are not just looking at art. You are looking at time in conversation with intention. Machu, Picchu, Angkor, Wat, Petra, Tikal. These were cities that vanished beneath jungle, desert, time. Not because they failed, but because the world moved on. And yet, when rediscovered, they sing again. Statues with blank eyes look at new visitors. Altars receive sunlight for the first time in 800 years. Nature had wrapped them gently, not in cruelty, but in patience. As if to say, these memories were never lost, just waiting. Just as our bodies have bones, so do cities. Roads, aqueducts, columns, walls. Even when the people go, the infrastructure lingers. Archaeologists study these, like paleontologists study skeletons. Where did the people move? What did they build? How did they trade, eat, dream? And sometimes, buried beneath skyscrapers, we find the bones of older dreams. Civilization layers itself like sediment. We build the future on the ruins of the past. Some artists don't just accept time, they collaborate with it. Andy Goldsworthy makes sculptures from leaves, ice, wind, knowing they will vanish. Japanese kintsugi repairs broken pottery with gold, highlighting the crack. WABI-SABI, a philosophy of beauty in impermanence. In these, time is not the enemy. Time is the artist's final touch. Art is not just made to last. Sometimes it's made to fade beautifully. All ruins were once touched by hands, that smooth corner of a stone, touched by fingers 1,000 years ago. The groove in a stair, made by generations of footsteps, the chipped lip of a jar. From someone's daily use, ruins feel sacred, not because they are empty, but because they are crowded with ghosts, not scary ones, but the kind that smile when remembered. Even today, we leave ruins, abandoned amusement parks, empty malls, collapsed mining towns, old train stations. Urban explorers call them liminal spaces, places caught between memory and silence. They are the new Pompeii, just faster. Steel rusts instead of stone crumbling. Neon fades instead of pigment, but the feeling is the same. A whisper. Someone was here. Someone hoped. Someone built. You too are full of ruins, old beliefs, forgotten dreams, abandoned versions of yourself, and that's okay. Not everything you once were needs to survive. Some things were meant to be beautiful for a moment, and then fall away. Just as the body sheds cells, the soul sheds scaffolding. You are allowed to crumble a little, to be unfinished, to carry scars like ivy growing through stone. You are a ruin, still breathing. When you sleep, your body becomes still, like a statue, but your mind sculpts stories. Dreams are the ruins of waking life, reassembled into shapes we don't fully understand. In sleep, we become artists of memory. We carve symbols into the darkness. And sometimes, what we forget upon waking still leaves a mark. Not everything that fades is gone. Some stories live in shadow. Civilizations rise like skeletons. Roads become arteries. Aqueducts, veins, walls are ribs, towers, vertebrae, temples, the heart. And from this frame, a culture moves. If you want to know how people lived, look at how they built. Look at what they made permanent and what they let vanish. Because architecture is the body of belief. It holds the shape of what a society values most. All over the world, power seeks elevation. Temples built on mountains, palaces on hills, thrones on raised platforms. Why? Because height creates distance. It forces the neck to tilt. It makes one look up. That posture, looking upward, is built into religion, kingship, and awe. The Greek word Acropolis means high city. The ziggurats of Mesopotamia were stairways to heaven. And even modern skyscrapers are called power centers. Height isn't just geography, it's psychological architecture. Two shapes define civilization: the circle and the square. The circle is ritual, sacred. It has no corners, no hierarchy. Fire. Circles, stone circles, council rings, harvest dances. The square is power. It divides space. It assigns position. Palaces, barracks, grids of empire, cities of control use the square. Villages of sharing use the circle. And yet, most civilizations hold both: the circle to remember, the square to command. Geometry becomes governance. Temples are not just buildings, they are tools for time travel. They are built to align with the sun, to mark the solstice, to echo a prayer into eternity. In Egypt, light would pierce the dark only once a year, illuminating the god's face. In Chichen Itza, shadows on the steps formed a serpent during the equinox. Even Stonehenge tracks the stars. These weren't accidents. They were calendars carved in stone. Spaces that made humans feel they were touching something beyond their lifespan. A way to cheat time through structure. Ritual is architecture in time. You take the same path. You say the same words. You light the same fire again and again. Why? Because repetition builds memory. It builds meaning and buildings to hold this ritual rhythm. The steps leading to the shrine, the hallway before the throne, the bell tower, the dome. Every step becomes a part of the performance. Every echo reinforces belief. Even today, we walk through government halls and feel small. Ritual plus architecture equals power made physical. Power isn't always sacred, and though intangible, they still touch, because mourning is not about the place, it's about witnessing. And if a memory is seen by others, it breathes. Even pixels can carry reverence. There are now millions of dead users online, profiles without owners, voices that once answered, accounts that still exist but are no longer human. The internet is a quiet cemetery in motion. And someday, most of its data will belong to the dead, like a city where the living scroll through shadows, a digital ossuary, a bone house of memory, where touch is replaced with timestamps and grief is archived in hyperlinks. Artificial intelligence is trained on our words. Millions of human voices fed into its circuits, stories, books, chats, jokes, confessions. AI doesn't know us, but it reflects us, a collective ghost, a mirror made of many minds. And when you speak to it, you speak to echoes of joy, of sorrow, of rage, of wonder, but no soul, only mimicry, shaped by our own words, a chorus without a body. When something goes viral, it spreads like pollen. You are quoted, clipped, remixed. Your voice, your face, your ideas, circulating without you. We live in an age where identity is copied faster than it is understood. Memes become masks, avatars become anchors, and soon even your own memories feel unfamiliar, like content seen on someone else's page. But through it all, the real you still breathes beneath the noise, the core, the quiet, the original shadow in digital space. Nothing forgets unless you ask it to. The right to be forgotten is a legal concept, but also a spiritual one, because remembering everything is a kind of burden. Even the brain forgets, for a reason. Not to erase, but to make room, to forgive, to grow, and maybe we need that online too, a sacred delete key, a reset, a space where silence can be honored. Even code deserves to rest once. Gods were the ones who shaped us. Now we shape ourselves through algorithms, through avatars, through artificial intelligence. We are the sculptors of our second selves. Every status you post, every image you filter, every playlist you build, you are crafting a digital self-portrait. But is it honest, or is it armor? A question for each night. A mirror only sleep can shatter every night. When you close your device, you disappear, temporarily, gently. Your screen dims, your inbox pauses. Your digital self fades to black dot, and your real self, warm, breathing, dreaming, returns. Sleep is a kind of sign-off, a surrender, a reminder that despite all code, you are still a body. You are still a heartbeat, not a cursor. You are still flesh, not file. Someday the servers will fail, the clouds will vanish, the data will decay, even code turns to dust, but something else remains. The intention behind the echo, the love in the post, the laughter in the message, the soul beneath the simulation. We are not our profiles. We are not our playlists. We are what we give, what we touch, what we let go of. And in that letting go, something eternal flickers, a light no algorithm can replicate. Thank you for wandering this final path with the Sleepy Scientist stories. If this journey through digital memory touched something true, like, subscribe, and share it gently with a soul who's always online, but quietly seeking rest. Tonight, let your screens fade. Let your thoughts soften. Let your identity return to the body that carries it. You are not just data. You are dusk and dawn and everything in between. Good night, sleep deep, and dream beyond the cloud.